James Watson, the Nobel Prize-winning American scientist who co-discovered the structure of DNA, has died at the age of 97. His death marks the end of an era in molecular biology, one defined by a monumental scientific achievement that transformed the understanding of life itself, but also overshadowed by deep controversy that tarnished his later years. Born in Chicago in April 1928, James Dewey Watson showed early brilliance. He was the son of Jean and James Watson, descendants of English, Scottish, and Irish settlers. By the age of 15, Watson had already earned a scholarship to the University of Chicago, where he began exploring the mysteries of biology. It was there that he first encountered the revolutionary technique of X-ray diffraction, a method that used X-rays to reveal the inner structures of atoms and molecules. This technique would eventually play a crucial role in his life's greatest discovery, unlocking the structure of DNA, the molecule that carries the genetic instructions for life. In 1951, Watson traveled to England to continue his research at the University of Cambridge, where he met Francis Crick, a brilliant British physicist turned biologist. Together, they embarked on one of the most extraordinary collaborations in the history of science. At the time, the structure of DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, was a mystery. Scientists knew that it was the carrier of genetic information, but its physical form remained elusive. Working in the Cavendish laboratory, Watson and Crick began building three-dimensional models to visualize how the molecule's components, sugar, phosphate, and nitrogen bases, might fit together. A critical piece of their work came from data produced by Rosalind Franklin, a talented X-ray crystallographer at King's College London. Her X-ray image, known as Photo 51, provided vital evidence that DNA had a helical shape. However, the image was shown to Watson and Crick without Franklin's permission or knowledge, a fact that would later spark decades of ethical debate about credit and recognition in science. Using Franklin's data and their own calculations, Watson and Crick built a model that revealed the now iconic double helix, two intertwined strands held together by base pairs like a twisted ladder. It was one of the greatest scientific discoveries of the 20th century. When they announced their findings in 1953, Watson and Crick famously declared, "We have discovered the secret of life." The discovery of DNA's structure revolutionized science, paving the way for genetic research, biotechnology, and modern medicine. It unlocked the mechanisms of heredity, mutation, and evolution, setting the foundation for advances ranging from gene editing to forensic science. For their groundbreaking work, Watson, Crick, and Maurice Wilkins, Franklin's colleague at King's College, were jointly awarded the 1962 Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. Tragically, Rosalind Franklin had died of ovarian cancer in 1958 at the age of 37, and Nobel Prizes are not awarded posthumously. Despite his early triumphs, Watson's later life was clouded by controversy. His 1968 memoir, The Double Helix, became a bestseller but was criticized for its disparaging portrayal of Rosalind Franklin and its sexist remarks about women in science. While some praised the book for its candid insight into scientific discovery, others condemned it for perpetuating gender bias and personal attacks. Still, Watson's scientific career flourished for decades. After his discovery, he and his wife Elizabeth settled in the United States, where Watson became a professor of biology at Harvard University. He mentored numerous young scientists and helped shape the next generation of molecular biologists. In 1968, he took over the Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory, CSHL, in New York. A historic institution he transformed into one of the world's leading centers for genetics and molecular biology. Under his leadership, CSHL became a hub for groundbreaking research in cancer and genomics. Yet, the same mind that reshaped biology would later find itself estranged from the very community it helped create. Beginning in the early 2000s, Watson's public reputation began to unravel due to a series of offensive and scientifically baseless remarks about race, intelligence, and gender. In 2007, during an interview with the Times of London, Watson claimed that people of African descent were inherently less intelligent than those of European descent. "I am inherently gloomy about the prospect of Africa," he said. suggesting that genetic differences explained disparities in intelligence. The comments were met with widespread outrage. Scientists, institutions, and advocacy groups around the world condemned his statements as racist, unscientific, and deeply irresponsible. Watson issued an apology, calling his remarks unreservedly regrettable, but the damage was done. Cold Spring Harbor. Laboratory suspended him and eventually forced him to resign as chancellor. The scientific community, which had once hailed him as a hero, distanced itself from him. Over time, he lost honorary positions, speaking engagements, and much of the respect that his earlier achievements had earned. The controversies continued into the following decade. In a 2019 PBS documentary, Watson doubled down on his earlier claims about race and intelligence, asserting that differences in IQ were linked to genetics, a statement entirely unsupported by credible science. In response, Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory stripped him of all remaining honorary titles, including Chancellor Emeritus and Honorary Trustee. In a public statement, the institution condemned his views as reprehensible and unsupported by science. Even as his public image crumbled, Watson's contributions to molecular biology remained monumental. His discovery of the double helix remains a cornerstone of modern genetics, an achievement that transcends the controversies of his later years. However, the moral and ethical questions surrounding his career continue to provoke debate. How should history remember a man whose scientific brilliance was matched by personal prejudice? In 2014, Watson made headlines once again when he became the first living Nobel laureate to sell his Nobel Prize medal. Feeling ostracized by the scientific world, he auctioned it for $4.8 million. The buyer, Russian billionaire Alisher Usmanov, later returned the medal to him, saying that Watson's scientific contributions should still be recognized despite his mistaken comments.